Do you enjoy the Pokemon TCG but absolutely hate when your opponent gets to play the game? Well, I've got a deck for you, Mega Starmie Dusknoir. I'm talking turn 2 wins, entire boards disappearing, games ending before your opponent can even evolve. This deck is genuinely disgusting. So today, I'll be breaking down every card in the list, trying to win a tournament, making some key changes, and then putting those tweaks to the test at an even bigger tournament. Plus, there's an incredibly spicy version in the works. Stick around to the end for that. Anyway, let's get into the list. We've got 3 Staryu and 2 Mega Starmie EX, since you really only need to set up 1 in the average game. But sometimes you will need to bench 2 Staryu just to make sure that 1 actually survives to evolve. There's an incredibly thick 4-3-2 Dusknoir line. We want to be making quick use of Curse Blast to explode our opponent's Pokemon before they even get a chance to play the game. Munkidori and Risky Ruins further help to spread damage, and if the stadium ever sticks in play during our opponent's turn, their Pokemon will be spawning in with 2 damage counters every time they hit the board. There's 1 Badoo to slow them down with Item Lock while we set up for a board wipe, which is especially useful when we're forced to go second. Blood Moon Ursaluna EX is a great way to close out games. Since we can manipulate prizes so well with Dusknoir, it can usually get in for a free 240 damage game-winning attack. Latias EX helps to take pressure off of our energy attachments, particularly when going for a turn 1 Badoo. And it is especially helpful when we happen to open up with Ursaluna, because otherwise, without it, that 3 retreat cost is game losing. Considering we have no other draw engine, Fezandipity EX and Meowth EX are the perfect supplementary consistency Pokemon. Speaking of consistency, there's 4 Buddy Buddy Poffins, 4 Ultra Balls, and 3 Pokepads for a ton of Pokemon search, as well as 3 Pokegears, so we don't always have to rely on Meowth to find supporters. Obviously, there's 4 Lily's Determination. I mean, it is by far the best draw supporter right now. But we've also got 3 Hilda, since a lot of the time, all you'll be looking for is to cherry pick either Dusclops or Starmie, alongside a Water Energy to lock up a turn 2 double knockout. Plus, Hilda has incredible synergy with our A-Spec, Legacy Energy. This deck already has so many ways to manipulate the prize trade, and Legacy robbing your opponent of another is just the cherry on top. This is in addition to the solid value you'll get from its rainbow typing, as we're already running a 3-3 split of Water and Dark to support both Mega Starmie's Jetting Blow and Munkidori's Adrenabrain. And of course, we do need those basic energies for their synergy with Night Stretcher so that we can recycle them when required. On top of all that, there's 2 copies of Ignition Energy entirely for Starmie's second attack. 210 is a great number to handle the majority of basic EX Pokemon for those matchups where we're more concerned about chaining KOs rather than spreading damage and wiping pre-evolutions. And it comes with a nice bonus Shred effect, meaning that pesky Crustle can't do anything. Rounding out the deck, we've got a few utility supporters like 2 copies of Boss's Orders for a bit of classic gusting. Judge offers flexibility, giving us the option for a bit of hand disruption, which is especially nice since we're already going to be feeding our opponent's prize cards with Dusknoir. And there's a single copy of Wally's Compassion, which can completely undo an opponent's turn if they ever punch into Starmie while going for a 2-shot. And that's the list. It just got top 4 at Prague Regionals, so there's already proof it can win. But let's take it for a spin as is before I go ahead and start making changes. I'll be hitting up Troll Oz's weekly Wednesday night locals for a chance at $125 store credit. As usual, there's going to be 3 best of 3 rounds. Let's see if I can win the whole thing. First up, I'm against Dragapult Dusknoir. He wins the coin flip, but having no idea what I'm playing, chooses to go second. Big mistake. I have to start Fez, but immediately rip double Pokepad for Starmie and Duskull. He's got his own Temu Poffin, grabbing a second Dreepy and Badoo, ending the turn by benching Latias, Duskull, and item locking me with Itchy Pollen. I evolve up a couple guys and use Lily's Determination for 8 fresh cards. This finds me Water Energy and another Duskull, but since I missed my energy attachment last turn and can't search out Latias, that Fezandipity is just going to have to remain stuck in the active for now. He's only able to develop a single Dracloak, so after another Itchy Pollen, it's time to do what this deck does best. I Hilda for Dusclops and Dark Energy, attaching it to Fezandipity. Then pop a Curse Blast onto Dracloak before retreating into Starmie for a double KO on Badoo and their only stage 1 dragon. As long as he doesn't find rare candy, I am more than happy to just keep spawn camping these Dracloaks. He does manage to find a replacement, which recon directives straight into Lily's, finding Buddy Buddy Poffin for some more Dreepies and Unfair Stamp. That is quite a way to turn around this board state, but without a Dragapult in sight, I am still well and truly in the driver's seat. I Pokepad for another Dusclops, once again, instantly popping it on his only Dracloak, and at this point, pretty much my only lose lose condition is if he manages to pull off a Dusknoir Rare Candy Dragapult Crispin play to delete my Starmie. So in order to keep that option off the table, I just boss up Dusknoirs and take another 2-prize turn. He actually does have the Rare Candy Dragapult Crispin combo, hitting Starmie for 200 and spreading damage across my board. I rip a Pokegear, hoping for Hildas to end the game, but I whiff, picking up Lily's Determination instead. I attach Legacy Energy onto Munkidori so I can access Adrena Brain, and now if I can just see Dusknoir in these next 6 cards, I'll easily be able to lock up the game. That's Ultra Ball. There's the big ghost to pop 130 damage on his Munkidori. Adrena Brain 30 damage with my own Munkidori straight onto his Dreepy, and finish it off with Jetting Blow for 50. Easy dub. I get to go first once again, but this time my start is much less explosive, lacking any turn 1 Duskulls. And despite having an Ultra Ball in order to access Lily's Determination, this is absolutely worth it as it leads my opponent to a really solid starting board and some itchy pollen. Over on my side, the options are extremely limited. I drop Risky Ruins, evolve up Mega Starmie, and rip my only supporter, Judge, for 4 desperate cards. If I don't see some way to get Munkidori out of the active, I won't even be able to attack. But there's a Dark Energy, absolutely perfect. Now I can move that 10 damage off of Munkidori onto Duskull before retreating it, setting up for a double KO with Jetting Blow. I still haven't been able to bench any of my own Duskulls, which is really unfortunate, but a 2-prize lead on just the second turn of the game is nothing to complain about. Completely unfazed by Judge's hand disruption, my opponent is able to chain Pheasantipity into double Dracloak, guaranteeing a Dragapult on the following turn thanks to my lack of exploding ghosts. However, finally free from item lock, I can now slam down double Buddy Buddy Poffin and instantly fill out the rest of my board with Duskulls. This next turn is going to be absolutely insane. On top of that, I'm able to repower up Munkidori thanks to Legacy Energy and start building up damage on my opponent's Meowth with Adrena Brain, finishing off the turn with another Jetting Blow double KO on Dracloak and the Risky Ruins damaged Dreepy. He finally manages to achieve that fully powered up Dragapult, but at this point, without Unfair Stamp, it is simply too little too late. I could easily use Boss's Orders for game here, but I think past Tim had the right idea.
Okay. Well, I have game, but I want to do it a funny way.
I gotta make up for all the ghosts I didn't get to pop this game. Pokepad for Dusclops, that's 50 damage. Night Stretcher to bring it right back, that's another 50 damage. Munkidori's Adrena Brain adds 30 damage, and Mega Starmie's Nebula Beam for 210 KO's Dragapult, finishing the game and winning me the set. My opponent was actually able to get off a single Phantom Dive in each of those games, which is honestly more than I expected. Next, I'm against a Teal Mask Ogerpon deck, and at first, this may seem like a tough matchup, but actually, Mega Starmie's Nebula Beam lines up perfectly with that 210 HP. And it's not particularly easy for them to get the KO in response, needing 5 Grass Energy on a single Ogerpon with Meganium in play. They get to go first, setting up all their basic support Pokemon, but crucially missing any Terrafellas. Unfortunately, my hand is looking awful. There's no supporters in sight, and there's no Pokegear, Meowth, or Ultra Ball to potentially bail me out. At least I've got Buddy Buddy Poffin to grab Badoo and Staryu, making use of Latias's Skyliner ability to retreat and hit them with an Itchy Pollen. Thanks to the item lock, he's still unable to get any Ogerpons online, but that doesn't stop the easy response from Fan Rotom as soon as Area 0 hits the field. However, this knockout is exactly what I wanted. Now that they've taken a prize, I can drop Pheasantipity, flip the script, and I've still got nothing. My best play is to just use Risky Ruins as a counter stadium, set up Munkidori to start moving damage over, and shove up a Sacrificial Star so I can hopefully draw some better cards off Fez next turn. In great contrast to what I've got going on, he's holding pretty much everything he needs. Another Area 0, Teal Mask Ogerpons, Boss KO on my Staryu with Energy, all while still holding on to Noctowl for a massive potential play. I need to make something happen this turn. I start with Pokepad for Dusclops, since I really want to thin Pokemon out of my deck before flipping the script, as I desperately need to see a supporter. There's a Pokegear right on time, which finds me Hilda, grabbing Mega Starmie, and unfortunately, only a Water Energy, as guess what? My A-Spec is prized. When combined with Munkidori's Adrena Brain for 20 onto the bench Hoot Hoot, this actually lets me take a 2-prize turn, evening things up at 4-4, all while still keeping my Dusclops unpopped on the bench for a future combo. However, my opponent is cooking their own enormous turn, stacking 5 Grass on Ogerpon with double Energy Switch, and now all they need is a way to find Meganium, and they'll be able to one-shot my 330 HP Mega Starmie EX. After Lily's Determination for 6 new cards, miraculously miraculously, he's whiffed. There is no grass dinosaur. But I'm not out of the woods just yet. Terra Orb grabs another Ogerpon, which means there's one more Teal Dance draw. And it's Bayleaf. My Starmie is safe for another turn. Although there is still a Prime Catcher, which brings up my Pheasantipity, allowing for a 2-prize KO anyway. But crucially, since he wasn't able to take 3 on Mega Starmie, that means he's still got 2 prize cards remaining, and I'll be able to make use of that Dusknoir without immediately losing the game. I Ultra Ball for Meowth, evolve Dusknoir, drop a Risky Ruins, bench Meowth, searching out Judge for some hand disruption, and play down Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, which is going to be able to attack for free right after I blow up Bayleaf with Dusknoir's Cursed Blast, giving him that penultimate prize card, which I immediately shuffle straight into the deck with Judge. Now, while he does only need to take one more knockout in order to win, my board is entirely comprised of 2-prize EX Pokemon, forcing a 7-prize game. Well, except for Munkidori. So, I decide to go for a bit of a big brain play here. Given that it's the easiest target to chase down, I attach a Legacy Energy so that now the monkey is functionally worth 0 prizes. Meaning my opponent's going to need either 8 energy to KO Ursaluna, or Boss's Orders and 4 energy to deal with the Meowth on my bench. Off of just a 4-card post-Judge hand, yeah, that's not going to happen. Even after all that draw, he is nowhere close to winning, and all I need is an Ignition Energy for Nebula Beam. I thin out my deck, rip Lily's Determination, and there it is. That's game 1. I have to go second once again, except this time, my opponent starts by pulling out 2 of the most disappointing bug catching nets I've ever seen, netting 3 total energy and 0 Pokemon. And my hand is looking quite the opposite. While I do have to use Meowth to find lilies, everything else is great. Ultra Ball for Latias to provide free retreat, allowing me to preemptively attach Legacy Energy onto Staryu while still maintaining the option to retreat into Bidoof, which I find off of lilies as well as another Duskull. Without a supporter, all he can do under item lock is bench a couple guys that take Risky Ruins damage, evolve the active, and pray that I don't have it. Pokepad for Dusclops and pop it on Chikorita for the knockout. Night Stretcher to bring it back and pop that one on Hoot Hoot for another KO. Hilda for Mega Starmie, and that's the game. 3 KOs, completely wiping them off the board on just my second turn of the game. Yeah, this deck is insane. So now that I'm 2-0, I've got one last round to win in order to lock up that top prize. Fortunately for me, and unfortunately for anyone expecting a close set, I've paired into Crustle. This is a near auto win for Starmie. Thanks to Dusknoir's Cursed Blast burst damage and Nebula Beam having a built-in shred effect that completely ignores Crustle's ability, there's really not a ton of counterplay for the crab. It should be completely free, right? Well, look at that opening hand. Absolutely nothing. Just attached to Duskull and pass. Luckily, my opponent is in the exact same boat, just using Zerosix Machinations and Ascension to get Crustle online. I bench Bidoof and Meowth for lilies, grabbing 8 fresh new cards. Yet somehow, I still haven't found a way into Staryu. All I can do is retreat into Itchy Pollen. There's only a second energy attachment on my opponent's side, but now he's just a turn away from taking KOs, and I don't even have my primary Pokemon down yet. Despite his hand clearly being completely bricked, I've got no option other than to play Judge and give us each 4 new cards. I need to see something. There's a Buddy Poffin, and cautious of a potential boss's orders, I decide to play it safe and just grab double Staryu while keeping up the item lock. He attaches that crucial third energy, benches another Dwebble, and drops lilies for 8, taking the KO on my Bidoof. But actually, that's the end of the game. Hilda for Ignition Energy, evolve Mega Starmie EX, pop Dusknoir on the bench Dwebble, and one-shot the active thanks to a massive Nebula Beam. It was always going to be an easy matchup, regardless of how bad my start was. He chooses to go first this time, attaching Growing Energy and Hero's Cape to create the beefiest Dwebble you've ever seen. I slam down Risky Ruins, attach a Dark Energy to Staryu, and rip a Judge straight off the top. I mean, just look at the hand I was sitting on. It was completely unplayable otherwise. And somehow, this new hand of 4 isn't looking much better. I guess if there's any matchup I'd want to brick into, it's gotta be Crustle. I've got so much time to make this work. I could Pokepad for Bidoof, but I think I'd rather hold on to these and slow evolve up my Dusknoir. He benches Kangaskhan, petraling for Switch to move into the active, and then uses Run Errand for a couple cards. I top deck a completely useless Risky Ruins, Pokepadding for Dusclops, and passing the turn. He continues powering up the bench Crustle, and I've still got nothing. Evolving Dusknoir, evolving Starmie, and passing. Realizing that I'm not going to be able to do much of anything anytime soon, he pivots to begin powering up Kangaskhan. There it is, Ultra Ball. I grab Meowth for lilies, and now I can finally play the game. I fill out my bench with Duskulls and a backup Starmie just in case I get incredibly unlucky on the rapid fire combo flips. I finish off by attaching Dark to my active and passing. I could have cashed in Ignition Energy for 210 damage right now, but it would have left me without any real plays on the following turn. This way, I can pressure resources by forcing a second energy onto his Kangaskhan, because if he doesn't, I'll have infinite time to build up Dusknoirs on the bench. He does stick the second energy, but also bosses up my Meowth in an attempt to stall and buy some time. So with the threat of a potential attack on the following turn, it's finally time for me to pop off. Hilda searches out Legacy Energy and Dusclops, then Dusknoir explodes for 130 damage on his active, opening up a bench space for Latias so I can retreat and KO the Kangaskhan before it gets a chance to flip any coins. He finally makes his first attack of the set, hitting for 120 into Mega Starmie after attaching another Growing Energy, bringing Crustle up to a monstrous 290 HP. However, that is no match for a Dusknoir Nebula Beam combo dealing 340 damage that simply does not care about the mysterious rock in. Without dropping a single game, I've managed to lock up the tournament dub and a cheeky chunk of store credit to go with it. But honestly, that win was a little bit too easy, and I know that this deck has the potential to do so much more. So later that same week, I decided to take it to a League Cup, and it was a properly stacked event with 60 players and a full booster box for the winner. But first, there are a couple quick changes I want to make to the deck. Wally's Compassion feels like it doesn't do anything. Sure, there are some dream scenarios where it would be absolutely perfect, but if you don't naturally draw into your single copy of it, benching Meowth to search for that tech supporter is almost never worth the liability. And I'm always a sucker for more consistency, so we'll be swapping it out for a fourth Pokepad. I also never felt the need for the full 3 Dark Energies, so I cut one of those for a third Night Stretcher in order to lean more towards chaining Cursed Blasts. Because by far my favorite play with the deck has got to be turn 2 Dusclops, Night Stretcher Dusclops, Night Stretcher Dusclops, wipe your board, I win. I did also consider Jamming Tower, seeing as Hero's Cape is on the rise, and when paired with Chorus's Tenacity, it would always be searchable thanks to Meow. But I couldn't find any more cuts I was happy with, so they're staying out of the 60 for now. Anyway, let's see how that massive cup went with my new and improved list. Round 1, I actually paired the same Ogerpon player from the last tournament, but this time, purely because of how I beat them, they've gone and teched in a Psyduck. Fortunately, without Shaman, the Duck is actually a pretty fake counter to this deck. I just set up 50 damage on it in the early game, and when I want to start popping Dusknoirs, all it takes is Monkey Dory and Risky Ruins to finish it off. Honestly, if anything, I think it was actually detrimental to them, just eating up a bench space and giving me a free prize in both of the games. Round 2, I hit one of my mates who's been really keen on running Blood Moon Ursaluna. And fortunately for me, I literally invented the deck, so I didn't have a ton of trouble working around its tricks. Next was Team Rocket's Mewtwo. I easily wiped them off the board going first, but then in game 2, they were actually able to evolve enough Spidomps in time before I could capitalize on Tarantula's perfectly exploitable 50 HP. So it all came down to game 3, where I was at a massive advantage going first, until I did my initial deck search and learned that both my Mega Starmies were prized, and for some reason, I simply could not draw into Dusclops to take any KOs. The game was looking incredibly dire as I resort to using Judge and Badoo while Monkey Dorying Risky Ruins damage over to his board. After they take a prize with Mewtwo, all I can do is recycle Badoo and continue Monkey Dorying more damage while they're still unable to evolve Spidops under item lock. They take another KO, but now I can finally finish off one of those spiders with a third Adrenabrain thanks to all the damage I racked up with Risky Ruins. And with a 1 in 3 chance off my very first prize card, I grabbed Starmie. From here, I used Jetting Blow to wipe another little spider while smacking 120 onto Mewtwo. And because they weren't playing Max Belt, they had no way to one-shot Starmie, and I snowball the game into a dub. This cup's got 6 rounds of Swiss, so at 3-0, if I win one more, I can actually ID into top cut. And somehow, I've managed to hit the only mirror in the room. It's actually a really interesting matchup, and I'm incredibly keen to test more of it. But unfortunately, this one was basically just decided by my abysmal prizing and complete inability to draw any useful cards. It seems the only thing that can stop my massive star is another massive star. Luckily, we've still got 2 more rounds. rounds. Next, I'm against Dragapult Dusknoir, where I win a clean game 1, wiping them off the board despite having to go second thanks to my Badoo slowing them down. In game 2, I'm not able to repeat this magic as I whiff any way to retreat into Itchy Pollen on turn 1, and they hit a disgusting Candy Dragapult that I simply cannot deal with. And in game 3, I finally get to go first and completely spawn camp their Dreepy for the entire match. At 4-1, I could play out the last round for seeding, thanks to the new rule change on who gets to go first in Top Cut. But to be honest, I'd rather just eat lunch, so I take the ID and finish up Swiss as the 4th seed. In top 8, I've got a rematch against that Rockets Mewtwo from earlier, and because of my seeding advantage, I get to go first and completely run them off the board in game 1. In game 2, I'm not only forced to go second, but I'm also cursed with an awful start, eventually leading to my opponent tying up the set. But of course, going first in game 3 on just my second turn, I pop 2 Dusclops, taking 2 prizes on a couple of their Tarantulas, and then finish off a third with the 50 damage from Jetting Blow, stacking 120 on their active Mewtwo, which never gets the chance to attack because they can't even bench enough Pokemon to meet that Power Saver ability prerequisite. In top 4, I hit my first Dragapult to Dunsparce. To be honest, I thought this was going to be more popular considering it just won Prague Regionals. They're also the first seed of the tournament, so I've got to start off by going second, but my hand is kinda cracked. I managed to bench 2 Duskull and Staryu as well as get my Water Energy attack thanks to Hilda, while also holding on to Dusclops and Starmie for the following turn. Despite their double Dracloak setup and Badoo, I can just use Meowth for boss's orders, bringing up Dracloak, popping Dusclops on the other, and wiping them both. And as I take my second boss's orders off of the prizes, you can imagine exactly what's going to happen to their next Dracloak after they whiff Hero's Cape. Next game, my setup is much less explosive, and they eventually build up to a board of only double Dragapult while I still need to take 3 prizes. I do keep it close, but can't quite get through 640 HP of dragons. But in game 3, I finally get my chance to go first, and with 2 Duskulls and a Staryu on turn 1, I am able to completely destroy their slow start by instantly winning the set on my second turn with a pair of Dusclops and a Jetting Blow. Now it's time for finals, where I've got to overcome an Ogerpon box that has been tearing through the tournament. I thought this was going to be way more troublesome, but turns out when I can one-shot their guys with Nebula Beam, and they don't have any lightning attackers or Raging Bolts to take one-hit KOs in return, it's kind of just that simple. Ignition Energy, Ursaluna. In game 2, they do manage to pull off a Wellspring Snipe onto both my Duskulls, but at that point, my board is just 2 Mega Starmie, and they'll have to get through the massive 660 total HP if they want those last 4 prize cards. The game ends up being closer than I expected, but an easy dub nonetheless. 1 full box of Perfect Order, an incredibly sick champion playmat, and 50 championship points that I actually kind of need for a travel stipend because I haven't been going to enough cups. I'd call it a successful adventure with an incredibly fun deck. But I promised you fellas a spicy list. See, I've been cooking up a version of Starmie that incorporates a line of Pokemon which have never made day 2 of a major tournament. And I'm pretty confident that when paired with Mega Starmie, they absolutely can. I was so excited to test this theory that as soon as I realized it was actually working online, I went straight to locals, built the deck, and won, like really convincingly. So that's probably going to be the next video. I'd love to get it out sooner, but making these takes way more time than you realize. But I'm 100% sure that you fellas appreciate the effort. However, if you do want a bit of a sneak preview, my YouTube channel members, Patreon supporters, and Metafy subscribers have all had early access to the list for well over a week now. I definitely recommend checking it out for some bonus content if you've got the spare change to support me and all the content I make. And you'll get your name put right over there with all these other wonderful fellas.